everybody, and welcome to today's Higher Education EDU on Air. Today we're going to be looking at how you can personalize learning using Gemini for Education and Google NotebookLM. My name is Alex Galland, and I'm a digital transformation advisor across the Asia Pacific with Google for Education. And joining me today is Dr. Chong Chow Min, who is a senior lecturer in the Faculty of Agriculture at the University Putra in Malaysia. So today I'm going to be giving you a few examples of how you can personalize learning with different tools within Gemini for Education and also with Google NotebookLM. And then I'm going to hand over to Dr. Chong, who will give us some real-life examples of using these tools in his context. Alongside the challenges that the higher education sector is facing globally, there really are a number of challenges that are more specific to the APAC region. So when we talk about how Google can help to solve these challenges, we are speaking to you all. This is region specific. Currently, many of you are probably using basic search engines or simple AI chatbots. And while useful, because these tools certainly provide answers, they don't actually support the particular work of the higher education specialist. So today, we're going to explore Google tools which can bridge that gap for you throughout your workflow, from the preparation of high-quality resources to pedagogical support and delivery. And as well as the specific challenges in APAC, we've also spent time looking at the shared hurdles that we all face in higher education, the endless administrative workload, the need for personalized student support, and the sheer amount of time required for grant writing. In fact, this is a core challenge in academia, and lots of research has been done about that. I synthesized this research using Gemini, and I discovered that it takes, on average, 116 hours or 38 working days to write one single proposal. So it's a given from this point on. We are tackling these challenges head on. And Gemini isn't just about chatting with AI. It's about productivity across our working life, from prep to pedagogy. So whether it is drafting a complex grant proposal in minutes or creating leveled and language-shifted differentiated learning materials for a lecture, the goal is to give you back your most valuable asset, which is, of course, your time. Now, before we move forward, I would like to discuss a question that crops up a lot, and that is privacy. In an academic setting, your intellectual property and student data are sacred. It goes without saying that when you use Gemini with your university's Google Workspace for Education account, your data is protected by enterprise-grade security. So that means your prompts and your files are not used to train Google AI models. Additionally, your data is not reviewed by human eyes. It stays within your institutional domain. You retain full ownership of everything you create. So essentially, your intellectual property is safeguarded. So let's dive in now and look at Gemini, how it works and what it can do. Many of you are probably already using Gemini personally as a chatbot, which is great. We've spoken about the massification challenge, where classes get larger and more support is needed. And this is where we can use Gemini, because Gemini offers a range of tools which can help professors, lecturers, tutors to prepare and adapt learning materials for the realities of large cohorts or for teaching in English for ESL learners. I'm going to go now into Gemini and we're going to have a little quick look around. When we're in Gemini, you'll see in my prompt box that I have the security shield. And that reminds me that I am logged in with my educational account, so I have enterprise grade security and privacy. I have the plus button where I can upload files, things like lengthy PDFs that I would like summarized, either in written form or as an audio summary. And you'll also see here that I have a variety of tools to choose from. And we're going to have a look at a couple of these today. The first thing that we're going to look at is deep research. Now, I love deep research because instead of giving us one quick answer as a response, deep research actually creates a multi-step research plan where it then browses through many, many different sources, synthesizes information, and builds a comprehensive multi-page report complete with citations for me. So let's have a look at it in action. I'm going to paste in a prompt. I'd like to use deep research to find and summarize some retention programs from other universities near me. I've chosen deep research, and then I just need to click submit. What happens then is that Gemini actually puts together a research plan. So there's the plan. I can edit the plan if I would like Gemini to focus on something in particular, or not to focus on something in particular too. And when I'm happy, I just click Start Research. It then takes a couple of minutes because this is heavy work. But what happens after a couple of minutes is that Gemini returns a very lengthy report for me. So you can see here's the lengthy report. What I love is that at the end of every paragraph, I have a little drop-down arrow. And if I click on that, I can see the sources that were used to actually respond in that paragraph. And you'll see I have these numbered citations at the end of sentences as well. If I keep scrolling down this very lengthy report, when I get to the bottom, it will show me all the websites that were actually used in the report, so I can verify even further some of the information that has been returned. It will also list the sources that were read but not used in the report. And then if one would like to interrogate this even further, on the left-hand side, I can ask further questions, things like which of these programs are funded by government grants, and I can talk with Gemini on this left-hand side. I can, of course, up in the top right-hand corner, share this. I can export it to docs or just copy the contents. And what I also love is that I can create a variety of things based on this lengthy report. So I might like to listen to an audio overview instead of reading all of those words. Or I might like to create an infographic so that I can see that content more visually. And here's an example of the infographic. So lots of possibilities with deep research. The next tool that I'd like to share with you is Canvas. So that again is one of the tools in that tools menu. I'll click Canvas, and I'm going to use Canvas firstly as a writing assistant. So I've put in my prompt. As a professor, I'd like to email my students, so I'd like Gemini to help me to construct that email. There's my prompt. I've chosen Canvas, and then I just need to click Submit. What will happen now is that instead of just giving me a response directly underneath my prompt, you'll see it has opened up a blank canvas on the right-hand side, rather like what it did with deep research. So here is the suggestion that Gemini is giving me, but you might also notice that I have some functionality up at the top. What I can do is directly make changes to this text. So I can, for instance, delete words. I can change words if I like. And I can also, using the toolbar in the bottom right-hand corner, ask Gemini to change the complete length of that piece of text to make it very short or long or very long. I can also ask Gemini to change the tone to make it more formal, or in this case, less formal, more casual if I wanted. But what I also love is the fact that I can highlight anything. And when I do that, the little Gemini pop-up appears. And that's where I can ask for further clarification, ask a question, or ask Gemini to do things like expand that particular section of the text. So you'll see there, it has expanded that tiny little paragraph and it's made it a little bit meatier now. I, of course, can go through and make changes if I like. Once I have finished with this, I can once again export it, share it, or if I wanted to, create a quiz or an audio overview of that little piece of text, which in this case I wouldn't want to do, but there are options there. Now that's one way of using Canvas. Let's look at some other ways we can use Canvas to really help to personalize learning. In this example, I've chosen Canvas and I've just asked for a practice quiz about solar panels. Now that's quite broad. I probably, if I was doing this properly, have uploaded some course material or my lecture notes or something to target it a little more. But in this example, I have just said create a practice quiz about solar panels. And you'll see on the right-hand side here that I have a nice interactive practice quiz that I can do to check for my understanding. And you'll see if I get a question incorrect, it tells me why, and it tells me what the correct answer should be. So I can go through and complete that quiz as I have done. And then at the end, not only do I receive my score, but I can get an analysis of my performance. So Gemini will tell me what I have a solid grasp of and the areas that I need to focus on. And then because it's so helpful, it will offer to create some flashcards or a study guide for me. So the flashcards are really quite handy. I can go through and do a little bit more revision. I can keep track of my learning so that I know which cards I need to practice again and again. Great study technique. My own daughter, who's at university, loves using the flashcards and interactive quiz. Now, another way we can help to make learning stick, to make it more accessible for people, is by using Canvas to create interactive simulations. So here's an interactive simulation, again, about solar panels. And it actually doesn't make much sense to me, but it would if it was something I was studying. I can play with these little sliders and different things happen to the electrons and the efficiency and the voltage output here. So I can play and I can see directly what the impact of that is. It's a way of making learning visible for students, a way of making the abstract a little bit more concrete. I have seen lecturers and students also ask for simulations to be created in Python. So here's a Python simulation that I can run. It's allowing me to change the parameters down here. And then in the console, when I run it, I can see what the final velocity and the final height is. This can also be exported into Colab so that I can see it in a different format, in a slightly more visual format. Again, I would be running that code. So fantastic for people who are doing coding and wanting to explore some of these phenomena. The last thing I would like to show you in Gemini is gems. So to get to gems in my menu on the left-hand side, I just need to click gems. I'm then taken to the gem manager. Now, gems are pre-instructed mini Geminis, if you like, pre-instructed chatbots. There are several that are pre-made by Google that you can check out and copy, or there are ones that you create yourself. And this is where the real power comes in. So in this particular one, I have created a course support gem for academics. Let's go in and have a look at what that looks like. I have the name for my gem, and then I have the instructions. Now, sometimes the instructions could be very, very lengthy. For this particular one, I only have some brief instructions. But essentially, what I want this gem to do is to act as my teaching assistant who can help me to create scalable assignments and coursework for students in my courses, with 500 plus students in my big classes. So there are my instructions. I can choose a default tool. So I don't have to, but I can choose if I want the results always to be, for instance, an image, or always shown on a canvas, which is what I'm choosing this time. In the knowledge section, I can add knowledge artifacts. So this is where I could add syllabus documents or rubrics that I have, or course outlines, or assessment guidelines from the university, anything else that would be useful for the gem to know about and to be able to use. Once I have finished with that, I save it, and then it's ready for repeated use. So here's an example of how I might interact with that gem. I've said hi to the gem to get it going, and then it's asking me for some information. Share details of the first assignment you'd like me to recreate, it's asking, along with the learning outcomes. So here is where I have said what my course is, what the learning outcomes are, what the current format is, and so on. And then Gemini has gone through and it has recreated this assignment for me so that it is more suitable for massification for students in big courses. And there it is. So this is a fantastic tool that I can use again and again and again. It's pre-instructed, so I don't need to enter those instructions every single time. I just make use of this gem. We're now going to jump into Google NotebookLM, one of my favorite tools. So you'll see from this opening page that NotebookLM is like a series of folders on my bookshelf, a series of folders full of resources that I have. I'm going to go into one of them to show you what it looks like. Here is a psychology example, and all notebooks are set out the same way in 3 panes. In this first pane is where I add all those sources I have, the bits of paper or the links to documents, the videos, and so on. I just need to click Add Sources, and this is where I can drop in my files or paste in links to YouTube videos or to websites, get things from my drive. It's also where I can search the web if I would like to supplement my sources with extra information, or where I can actually conduct a deep research, which is useful because not only do I get the report, but I also get all of those possible website sources that I can incorporate into my notebook. So that is where I upload my sources. Now I have so many sources in this particular notebook, 70 in fact. One of the newest tools is the ability to group these, to label them. So NotebookLM has gone and labeled all my sources for me and put them into categories to make it a little easier. And I can turn these categories on or off if I like, and you'll see why in a little bit. If I open up one of these, you'll see some of the sources that I have, and I can select them or deselect them if I like. In the middle pane is the chat. And this is where I'm presented initially with a highlight of what all of this is about. It's like a big picture summary of all of my sources. And that in itself, I think, is quite interesting to see how it is summarizing everything that I've put into sources. In the chat, this is where I can ask questions. And here's an example of one I asked earlier. This is not dissimilar to what I would be doing in Gemini. The difference, however, is that the results that are returned are completely grounded in the sources that I have put in. So there is absolutely no risk of hallucination. And you'll see that after every single paragraph, I have these citation numbers. If I roll my cursor over one of them, I can see the actual source where that came from, that piece of information, and I can go view source to be taken directly to that source. The part that was used has been highlighted, and I can look at the source guide to give me an overview of that source. And then the part that's really interesting for personalizing learning is on the right-hand side in the studio. You'll see I'm able here to generate a variety of multimodal sources to help make sense of my information, whether it is a mind map, as you can see here, a mind map of everything that I have. I love the mind map. It's allowing me to see visually what I have in my sources, and I can at any time click on one of the mind map nodes and I'm taken to further information about it. Other things I can create include being able to generate quizzes, slide decks, beautiful video overviews, audio overviews, so many different possibilities. So in terms of personalizing learning, NotebookLM is absolutely fantastic. But that's enough from me. I think now it's time to hear from an actual higher education expert. So I would like to introduce Dr. Chong to you, who will now give us an insight into how he is using some of these tools in his context. Thank you, Dr. Chong.
Thanks, Alex. Hi, everyone. I'm Chong. I'm from University Putra, Malaysia. So I'm going to share with you the use cases, how we use the Google AIs to rewiring educator workflows. So as we know in the modern day, modern educators, we have heavy workloads. At the same time, we need to make sure our teaching and learning is not compromised with the burdens. So we can actually harness the Google AI as it is using the Google ecosystem and seamlessly integrated. So I'm going to share with you some use cases. So the first use cases I would like to share with you is I ask my students to use Gemini Live because Gemini Live can respond spontaneously. So it can actually very personalize according to the users. So I will let the student know the learning outcomes, the topics to cover, and then the student launch the Gemini Live, and then they have a real-time conversations, and then they record the conversations and submit the assignment. I want them to discuss, debate, and also use their creativity to interact, follow their pace. So what happens, I'm going to show you the examples that I give one video demo to the students so that they understand where to open the Gemini Live. So first I have the Gemini Live assignment info post on my LMS, and then the student able to access to the assignment information, especially the intended learning outcome, the instructions, and also how I do the rubric and scoring. So along with that, I show them a Gemini Live demo so that they can follow the same things but use their creativity to do the assignment. So this is an example demo that I give to the student. Just bear with my English. Okay, hold on. Sorry for the hiccup. With the transparent cut, or I make it float on the water surface, and I place a drop of soapy water at the back, and without touching the board moving forward. Why is it so?
That's a cool experiment. What you're seeing is all about surface tension. Water has a kind of skin on top because the water molecules like to stick together. Soap breaks down that surface tension. When you drop soapy water behind the boat, it spreads out and pushes against the higher surface tension in front of it, propelling the boat forward. Does that make sense?
Ooh,
You could try sprinkling some pepper on the water, then touch the surface with a soapy finger. The pepper should rush away, just like the boat did, because the soap breaks the surface tension. Another one is trying to drop as much water as you can on a coin to make a big dome before it spills. Which one sounds more fun to you?
so I like to use the pepper. So I put the pepper on the surface. Is it right?
Yes, that's correct. Just sprinkle a thin layer of pepper on the water's surface. The surface tension will hold it up, just like it did with the boat. What do you have nearby to add the soap with?
Uh, cotton bud.
A cotton bud will work perfectly. Just dip the end in some dish soap and then gently touch the water in the middle
Wow.
of the pepper. See? Surface tension in action. The soap breaks the surface tension right at the point of contact, so the surface tension around it pulls the pepper away. Pretty cool, huh? Do you want to try another one with surface?
So basically, I show them the demo, and after the Gemini Live, I also can ask the Gemini Live to use illustration to explain the underlying mechanism, and then the Gemini AI will quickly generate a very powerful informative infographic to explain the entire experiment. So I showed this video to the student and I asked them to show creativities, personalize the learning experience for topic chapter 2 in this case. And let's see what my students have submitted to me. So I have this student, he's a visual learner, he like to draw. So when I use illustration in my class, she actually mimics the drawing and then she asked Gemini about it, like why the lectures use this kind of characters design. So let's see the video.
And also, is there a reason why it is drawn like that? Is it uh is it because the cell itself under the microscope was seen like that?
It's possible the drawing is based on how granulocytes appear under a microscope. They often have irregularly shaped nuclei and granules in their cytoplasm, which might be represented by the shapes you've included.
So what I'm trying to show here is the students, they use their own preference, they personalize their interactions with the Gemini Live, but the intended learning outcome is still achieved. They are learning the chapter 2 through a different ways. The same students
And
also,
also, is there a reason why it is drawn like that?
okay, another examples of the same student is she counter check what I have said in the class with the Gemini Live. In this case, I mentioned to the class cytotoxics. Cyto means cells, toxics means dangerous. So she counter check with the AIs. And then when she submit the assignment, she showed that interaction.
Okay. As far as I have MC1,
So she asking here.
its cell is danger for their friends. So is it because they attack everybody that does not have MHC1?
That's a key point about nonspecific cytotoxic cells, as shown in your drawing. They are dangerous precisely because they can eliminate cells that don't display MHC class 1 markers.
As you can see in the videos, the Gemini Live will actually point to the screens to show what is the discussion focus on. I think that is a very cool features. At the same time, it made me ponder as an educators, we need to always make sure what we teach in class have to be relevant and accurate. It actually strengthens and create a very healthy learning ecosystem where the students are try, the learning is led by the curiosity, and also the AI train them to think critically. At the same time, the lecturer have to make sure what we deliver have to be up to date and relevant. So we have also another examples, student submissions, and the AI identify the misconceptions of students. Let's see these videos.
Stay in the connective tissues and release those signals when they spot a problem. Is there anything else you'd like to ask about them, or maybe we should look at thrombocytes next?
Oh, I thought that was non-specific cytotoxic cells.
I see we're slightly mixed up there. The non-specific cytotoxic cells are the ones that kill target cells by making whole.
So I post the video here. What happened is conventionally, the students only know what they misunderstood or what's the misconceptions during summative assessment. So, but now because of we can introduce this kind of activities, the scaffolding happens along the learning journeys. So it actually shifted product-based assessment to process-focused learning. So that is what I like. The AIs identify the misconceptions. Like, let's say we have 2 hours class, the student may not fully understand every concept we taught in the class, but AI actually can support and clarify and help to help them learn. Because when you have a class of maybe 100 students, some students are fast-paced, some students are slow learner. So AI can actually make personalized learnings, facilitate personalized learnings.
Stay in the
So I do some survey after the assignment. So I have a very good feedback. The lowest rating is neutral. I think about 96% students score them 9 or 10, which means they really like this kind of activities in the class. So I have 2 rated neutral. So I actually get some feedbacks from them. And I realized that one of the feedback is I have this student trying to be perfect. So, now she tried to design a script with AI and then ask Gemini to follow the script so that she can like answer perfectly. But Gemini Live, the good thing is they are very spontaneous, so they wouldn't follow the script. So I think this is a very powerful and meaningful and authentic tools. So the second use cases is, say we have a very, very big group and we want to do some group discussion. Yes, we can ask the student to record the discussion, but we may not have the times to check the recording one by one. So what I do is I harness the NotebookLM. It is actually very powerful tools, as Alex mentioned. It's grounded on the source we upload. So let's see what I do here. So it supports audio file. So I upload the student discussion in. So I have 5 group in this case, and then loaded them into the NotebookLM. Then onto the studio panel, I create my own report. So I key in, I ask them to access all the group discussion and give me some personalized scoring and feedbacks, including what topic the student covers, what extra topic they mentions. I also provide some checklist for the report. I say I want certain topics. Here you can see the 10-point checklist because that particular assignment, the student have to cover all these topics. So, and then at the end, we generate the reports. For the reports, you can see that it structures very nicely and give a lot of personalized comments. Alternatively, you can also put in the chat. The benefit putting in the chat is they will actually give you citation. That means they will tell you which part of the audio, the transcript of the audio mentioning that. So I think this is super powerful. You can validate the by checking back the audios. So this is what the AI give me. You can see that when I create the citations, they will tell me which part of this audio group 3 mentioning this topic. So I think that is very powerful features of NotebookLM. So moving on to my second last use cases, we'll be using NotebookLM, Google Drive as our second brand and working daily. You need to use Google AI harness the integration, seamless integration in Google platforms. So what I do here is we have a working dailies in Google Docs, and this is a generally working daily. So when we put them into the NotebookLM like users, it will actually answer based on that particular document. And I would like to share a tips here. So I put in this working diary 2026. So you can ask anything about generally because that is what I wrote in the Google Docs. So it can answer according to that documents like your personal assistant. But beyond that, say you have like now it's already May. We have many months update. You do not need to import new sources. You don't need to add new sources. What you have to do is you need to harness the Google ecosystem here. Very good. You can just go to the previous Google Docs and then just continue to update the documents. And when you do so, the NotebookLM, they will have a button say click to sync with Google Drive here. So when you see that button, you can just click on it to update and refresh. So now it becomes your up-to-date personal assistant or your second brand. You can ask them anything. Okay, so you do not need to continue to insert new sources. Right. Moving to my last use cases. Due to time constraint, I just want to go mention what is this about. You know, as an educator, sometimes you have to do the administrative task. One of the painful tasks will be doing minutes. And then we may have like Google Meets for 5 hours and so on. Take the recording, put into the NotebookLM, go to the studios, and then click on the report, personalize it. You say what format you want. You can generate the minute for you. I think that is a very good application use cases of NotebookLM. And you know, in Malaysia, we speak English. In our meeting, we speak sometimes English mixed with Bahasa Malaysia. NotebookLM can fully capture them. Okay, so that's why I pass to Alex.
Thank you so much, Dr. Chong. That was fantastic. I loved your examples. So creative. Would anybody like to ask a question? We do have a couple of minutes left for some live questions. If you do have a question, please post it in the chat and we will do our best to answer as many questions as possible. Dr. Chong, I loved your emphasis on using voice. So the Gemini Live examples were just so real. Everyone loves having their phone in their pocket. Everyone is tied to their phone. So why not make use of the technology that is so accessible? So I thought that example was fantastic. Talking to Gemini Live like a tutor, like a coach was just brilliant. So those examples are excellent. I also really liked the fact that you emphasized that you don't have to have lots and lots of sources in your NotebookLM. You can go really deep with one. And what a clever idea of just harnessing the beauty of tabs in Google Docs and, you know, updating that one document and then going into NotebookLM and interrogating that one document. So thank you so much for sharing those really creative examples. I loved them. So no questions are coming in. I think, Dr. Chong, you have just blown everyone's minds with what you have shown. And I do hope that that has incited some ideas in your own minds, and you're able to make use of Gemini and also make use of NotebookLM to help to personalize learning. Okay, so if you enjoyed today, which I hope you did, maybe we'll see you again. In the coming weeks, we would love to see you and bring your colleagues along too to our next few APAC sessions for higher education on air. So as you can see on the screen, on the 16th of June, learn how to build custom AI agents with Google Workspace Studio. That's another of my favorite tools. It's incredible what you can do, and quite easily too, with Google Workspace Studio. So that's going to be on the 16th of June. And then on the 21st of July, come along to find out how you can roll out Gemini for your campus at scale. Thank you very much for joining us. If you wouldn't mind, please now scanning that QR code. It would be great to get your feedback. The QR code is on the screen, or there might be a link in the chat too. Would love to get your thoughts. Thank you very much, Dr. Chong, for joining us today. I really, really loved your creativity. I wish I had you as a lecturer when I was at university. You really are making it real, so I can see why your students loved what you were doing. Thank you, Dr. Chong, and thank you, everybody, for joining us today.